Welcome, squirrels, to another episode of AvyHD. We are here in season 2, where we are diving into life unfiltered, talking about the real struggles of ADHD and the real struggles of neurodiversity in our lives and how they impact us on a daily basis. Hopefully, getting to know ourselves a little bit better, maybe getting to know our neurodivergent ADHD partners a little bit better, and generally creating a more accepting and tolerant world where we know more about each other. So, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. And I have to be honest, today is an episode that I'm really nervous about because it's such a huge topic. And in my opinion and in my view, it is the key to changing your life in general, and especially when you have ADHD. Today, we are talking about the beauty and the magic that is delegation. Delegating is hard. It's hard for everybody, and it's especially hard for the ADHD brain. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I don't know about y'all, but I am a hyper independent individual. And I don't know if that comes from parents who really fostered independence in us and supported us going after our own paths and working hard towards those goals, or if it was, childhood trauma or masking, or I'm not totally sure what led me to this hyper independence. And we can delve into it maybe more in another episode when I'm feeling a little more personal. But I do know that I don't like to relinquish control. And I know that that's not unique to me. And I know that a lot of my ADHD peers feel that same way, that they really struggle with relinquishing control. So they shy away from delegation. But let's challenge that narrative a little bit about what it means to have and lose control. What does it mean to be in control? And does that mean that I have to do everything myself? So, like I said, delegating is hard. It is hard for everyone, and it's especially hard for us ADHDers. But stick with me, because with the right strategies, it's possible to lighten your load and delegate in a way that actually works for you. So I'm so excited to have you here, and let's talk about it. Why does delegating feel so darn impossible? It's delegating literally just means asking for help. It means asking for help with a specific task so that that thing gets done, right? If you think about Ford's assembly line, one person delegates to the next. There's a full process with everyone playing their part and someone overseeing the entire process. And the person overseeing the process, they can't do everything themselves. You can't build a whole car by yourself. But everybody playing their part in the assembly line enables you to build a car with ease and maximum efficiency. So the same principle can be applied to your life. But as people with trust issues, I speak to the general population, and that applies to a lot of us ADHDers. We really have difficulty trusting other people with tasks because our experience and our life has shown us and proven to us that people don't help us in the way that we need to be helped. So we're hesitant to ask for help because it's hard to trust you that you're going to help me in the way that I need help, because I have so many experiences in my past that have shown me that despite best intentions, people aren't successful at helping me in the way that I need to be helped. So then I develop some pretty strict patterns of fear surrounding things not being done my way. Because if it's not done my way, then maybe I don't have control over the process. And if I don't have control over the process, then I'm opening myself up to people taking over, doing or misunderstanding me in some way. And if your experience is one of people misunderstanding you a lot, where you really need to clarify yourself a lot, that's a very, first of all, exhausting. but also it writes on the slate of who you are as a human being, that it sort of teaches you that your way is wrong, or that people aren't going to understand you well, or that you need to, clarify and explain, but you're still going to get pushback. It's a very exhausting process to think about asking for help if you haven't had successful experiences of asking for help. Additionally, it feels impossible to delegate because how do I even figure out what I need to delegate? Like, if I'm already figuring out that whole process and already figuring out where I need help, I might as well just do it myself anyways. And I mean, that's a fallacy. That's your brain telling you a lie, because of course it's still beneficial to get help, even if your brain thinks that you can do everything and anything all by yourself. But even just identifying what needs to be delegated can be extremely overwhelming as somebody with executive dysfunction. And then I've touched on it a whole lot, but that curse of thinking that it's faster to do it yourself, that's called time blindness, and it affects us ADHDers disproportionately. You just don't know how much time stuff takes. You don't. You are not a reliable narrator or judge when it comes to how long something is going to take you. It will almost inevitably always take longer than you think it will. So just know that when you are thinking about what is easier and what is not easier, your brain has a tendency to lie to you about your capacity and about how much time stuff takes. Like I said, delegating is hard for everybody. No one wants to be out of control. People want things done their own way. It's just things that we want as humans. And the ADHD perception of help is particularly complicated because there's a huge mental load associated with explaining tasks to someone else, because these aren't tasks that people would consider typical to ask for help with, right? So for example, I've mentioned a couple of times, making phone calls is hard for me. I don't like making phone calls, and I have a very dear friend who also does not like making phone calls. So when they need to make a phone call, they call me for emotional support to talk it through before they make the phone call. And when I need to make a phone call, I do the same right back. And sometimes we make each other's phone calls for each other. But this has been a 15-year strong friendship in which we have learned to trust each other, and we've learned that that's a need that we can help each other with. Imagine you're just dating someone and they want to be able to help you with stuff, because that's what we want to do with our romantic partners. Can you imagine a little bit of shame surrounding asking someone new for help making phone calls? Because it's not something that's really difficult for most people. You pick up the phone, you make a call. Maybe you don't really feel like talking to people right now or whatever, but it's not a big task. It's not a big deal. The person on the other side is probably going to be totally fine with whatever you're asking them to do. Nothing horrible is going to happen. Why would you even think these things? Like, the fact that I'm even bringing these things up, just so you know, a neurotypical brain doesn't, generally speaking, does not think of these things every single time they need to make a phone call to a strange office. So, not only is delegating hard for all the reasons that we already spoke about, there's several very specific emotional barriers to delegation that apply to people with ADHD. The biggest in my life, my friend RSD. RSD is a big fat bitch. RSD stands for rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And it basically is the fear of rejection. It is the disproportionate feeling of rejection. It's when there is a rejection or a perceived rejection, there is a disproportionate feeling of that rejection. So if somebody says something innocuous to you, like, "Oh, you know what? I really like the pasta you made last week better. It was so good." The neurotypical brain, or a person who does not have rejection sensitivity dysphoria, probably hears that and thinks, "Oh, they don't like this pasta as much. All right, noted." The person with rejection sensitivity dysphoria feels like they have never done anything right in their entire life. They can't cook anything that this person likes. It's unbelievable that you are such a trash piece of trash that you would feed your loved one a food that they didn't immediately absolutely love and lick up every single bite of it, and therefore you're worthless. We can see that that's a very disproportionate reaction to the rejection that happened, especially because there was no rejection. I preferred the pasta you made last week is not a rejection. It's a perceived rejection that is then blown out of control. And until I knew of rejection sensitivity dysphoria, I really didn't understand what was going on in my mind. And my husband would say things, innocuous things like, oh my gosh, this is something I can't believe I'm sharing this with y'all. But this is something that we bring up to this day in our house. Once he came in from work and I had been cooking, and he said, whoa, it's smoky in here. He said, it's smoky in here because it was smoky in there. The room was filled with smoke. I was making something on a grill pan or whatever, and it was a little smoky in there. I heard you can't even cook a meal in your house without filling the whole place with smoke. You incompetent, terrible wife. You can't do anything right. Even when he comes home from work, you can't ensure that there's a pleasant place for him to be. He has to come home to this house full of disgusting smoke. And like, my heart couldn't take it. And I snapped at him. I was like, don't say that. And he's like, what? It's smoky in here? I was like, don't say it's smoky in here. And to this day, now it's a joke because I learned that that part of my brain is a liar and I learned how to quiet it down. But I didn't know that at the time. And when you look at your life and all of the things that you didn't ask for help for fear of being judged, for fear of perceived rejection, and all of the times you felt inadequate or weak for not being able to do it all, that's not truth. That's rejection sensitivity dysphoria. If you're doing the best that you can, that is all you can ask of yourself. That's all. You can't ask any more of yourself. It's physically impossible. A couple of other emotional barriers to delegation beyond that rejection sensitivity dysphoria, that's a really tricky B. Perfectionism and control. The need for control, the need for things to be done right. ADHD people tend to hyper focus on details. If you have a vision in your mind, that's really how you expect it to be in reality. And you have a hard time letting go of what you have imagined in your head. And the pervasive and honestly debilitating thought of if I don't do it, if I'm not the one who does it, it's not going to be done right. And let me tell you that that thought is an absolute, it will decimate anything that you are possibly trying to build. If you do not let go of the thought that if I don't do it, it won't be done right, you will stand in your own way time and again and again and again. The opposite of that, which I've fallen victim to in my attempt to swing away from if I don't do it, it won't be done right. My pendulum swung way far in the other direction. And then I just started delegating like everything and also on other people's behalf, which is annoying. So, there's always a balance and we're always searching for that balance in our life. But I digress. Perfectionism and control, you have to release yourself from that. There is no way for you to grow more arms and create more hours in the day. And you're actually not enjoying your life by doing everything yourself. It's too much. You need to stop. And then my third and probably my most favorite emotional barrier to delegation is the shame around productivity. So we all know that our worth as human beings is measured by our productivity at work, right? Wrong. If you said right, you failed the test. There is a societal pressure to be competent and to be self-sufficient and to be able to do everything by yourself. When human beings were never meant to live as lone wolves, we're meant to live in a tribe. We're meant to live in places where one person has something that you don't, where somebody's strengths compensate for your weaknesses. So we have this expectation that we should and could do everything on our own, which is not only absurd, it's also ridiculous and crazy. And I don't know, 100 other synonyms for crazy. If I ask for help, I'm lazy. What? But how many of us have actually thought something similar to that? Like, no, I really should be able to do this myself. I'm not going to ask for help. Aren't you so much more efficient with your time if you ask for help? So when I first got married, I knew that I could not micromanage the way I was asking for help with something. I really don't like when people are in my space in the kitchen. It irks me. It's too sensory overloading and I don't like it. And stay out of the kitchen when I'm cooking. I don't want you there when I'm there. Except for Eitan, who is my husband, my kid's father. He has been my sous chef for years. And that's due to two really important things. One, he stays out of my way, which he actually has to be hyper aware to be able to do because I might move anywhere at any given time with no indication that I was going in that direction in the first place based on the thought or whim that popped into my mind at that exact second. And he has to stay out of my way. No matter where I am, he has to stay out of my way. The second thing was on me. If I'm asking for your help with something, chop the onions. I have to either ask for help in a specific way or I cannot control the process. So, what that means is I need you to chop the onions for a specific recipe. I need the onions diced in 1 inch cubes. If I want the onions diced in 1 inch cubes, I have to say, hey, can you please dice the onions in 1 inch cubes? And that might require a demonstration. It no longer requires demonstrations because we've been cooking together for 15 years. But at the beginning, it required a few demonstrations. Or I need the onion sliced into thin strips, the way that you would slice it for a hamburger. Whatever. If you want help in a specific way, you have to ask for help in a specific way. If you just say, cut the onions, you have to be okay with any which way that the onions get cut. That is a requirement of staying sane in a partnership. And also when you live with someone, and also when you have ADHD, and also when you're asking for help. So delegating is hard. Like it's complicated. And you might be asking yourself, Avi, are you really sure that it's worth it to ask for help and not just do things on my own? Because honestly, like I've tried to ask for help so many times in the past. I really have. Like I've really, really honestly said, like, help me, I need help. But people just can't help me the way that I need. Yeah, that's a hard one because delegating also requires very specific skills and you need to learn how to do it properly. But once you learn how to do it properly, there are so many benefits of delegating. You have time and energy, just your bandwidth is freed up for the tasks that you want to be doing. If you can delegate efficiently and take all that time and energy that you would be spending on asking for help or just like beating yourself up for not being able to do it on your own or, attempting to find the right solution for a problem that's been a problem for forever, you could have your energy free for high value tasks, for things that make a difference to you, to your business, to your life, to your well-being, to your family, to your children, to your hobbies, to whatever it is that you want to be doing. There are so many ideas that pop into my head and die every single day. And every person I know with ADHD has the same problem. The amount of ideas that pop into your head and disappear is overwhelming. But with automations, artificial intelligence, virtual assistants, outsourcing models, there is no reason for any of your ideas to get lost. You can set up a system that allows you to capture all of the things that normally fall. You could set up a system to do anything. I've transformed my entire workflow and my entire life by outsourcing and developing a very simple model where everybody works within their area of expertise. Everyone works within their strength, and each person's strength compensates for another person's weakness and vice versa. And together, they're like one superhuman. And none of that would have been possible without delegating. And I really had to learn how to do it for myself because I'm telling you, I'm a massive control freak and I like things done the way that I want them done. I have a picture in my head of how I want it done, and that's the way I want it done. And Even as I was building out this business that helps other people delegate, I insisted, y'all, you have to understand how stupid this is. I literally insisted on building our first website by myself. And like, yeah, I built websites in the past and I have a sufficient amount of web building experience, but it's not in my expertise. It's not in my wheelhouse for real. It's not a task I enjoy doing. It's not something that I'm particularly efficient at, but I had a vision in my mind and an idea of what I wanted it to look like, and I couldn't let go of that. Even as I was teaching my team and teaching people how to delegate, I was sitting there building my own website. And that website is 2 websites ago already. It's long gone. And it was sufficient for as a band-aid for what we needed at that exact moment. But it didn't need to be so freaking painful. I just was cluttering my brain with so many things and tasks I didn't need to do when I could have improved my focus and productivity tenfold by just asking for help in the correct way. There are people who know how to take a vision from a brain and transport it onto paper. They're called web designers. Okay. So go find a web designer, talk to them, have them transmit your vision for the website onto a wireframe for a web developer to build out, and go spend your time doing something else. But here's the real secret. Here is why we don't delegate, because we like to feel busy. Okay. And this is truth time, y'all. So if you're not ready for some truth, go away. We like to feel busy. We like to feel productive. Like we said before, being productive means I'm worthy, right? But if you can get a lot more done with a lot less effort, that is increased productivity. And then you need to spend your time doing something that's actually valuable. But that stuff that we have to do, that actually valuable stuff, that's the scary stuff. That's the stuff that we're avoiding. That's the fear of success and the fear of failure that we are facing. Those are the trauma wounds that we're avoiding. And if we stay busy and stay productive, busy bees, busy bees, busy bees, busy bees, you're keeping up the mental clutter because you're lacking clarity. But if you improve on that clarity, now you have a responsibility to yourself to actually do something about it. And if I don't do something about it, then what does that mean about me? What kind of lazy trash person am I then? Well, maybe you're not a lazy trash person and you've never been a lazy trash person. You just needed the help that you actually need. People don't build relationships by helping others. They build relationship by receiving and asking for help from others. So if somebody feels close to you and they trust you, they're going to ask for your help and vice versa. If you're a helper person who helps everyone and you never let anyone help you, people are not going to form attachments to you because we form attachments by allowing other people to help us. Delegation or asking for help, it builds trust, it builds collaboration in your family unit, in your team, in your workspace. And trusting other people creates opportunities for personal growth. Now, I already told you all that I'm a person with trust issues, so don't think I'm getting crazy on you. I'm not saying trust anyone, and I'm not saying give up control. I'm saying that there are ways to vet people, build trust and confidence over time, free up your plate, delegate in a way that feels right and safe for you, and get more done with your time. There are ways, I promise. How do I start delegating with ADHD? First of all, start small. Rome wasn't well built in a day, right? If you are particularly sensitive, we had a client who just really did not want to give access to their email inbox. It was didn't feel right to them. So we said, okay, don't. Start with something else. They started with other tasks. They gave them other tasks. And over time, the confidence built until it became so absolutely absurd that the person didn't have access to their email inbox that they granted access to the email inbox. But that trust and confidence has to build over time. So delegate one thing, see how it goes, and then delegate something else. If these are people in your support system, you need to know that you have the right people, right? So in your family, the tasks that you're asking of your children are obviously not the same tasks as you and your partner share in a household. And even within that, focus on your strengths, okay? So when you're talking about delegating, and I'm going to talk about partnerships for a second. When you're talking about delegating within your home, and I know that this is something that gets people very riled up, it's not about what the other person should be doing. Take all that out. Should is a toxic word. It's about what you want to be doing. What you only you can do, and also what you want to be doing. I don't want to do dishes. I have never wanted to do dishes. I have not done a dish since I got pregnant with my oldest daughter. I mean, like, obviously, if there's dishes in the sink or if, other people aren't around or like whatever, they'll get done eventually. But I don't do dishes. I just don't. So I take something else on myself to balance out that workload. I focus on my strengths. I identify what I want to do and what I'm good at. And, then you divide and conquer the rest of the things. Use tools, use systems, find the thing that works for you. It's probably not some standard app or tool that works for the general population. It's probably a very unique system to you. A few things, a few just like tips. Your system probably needs to be very visual, probably needs to be color coded. It probably needs to have like click and drag features so you can move things around. It probably needs to have all the information in one place so you can absorb all of the information at once. And it probably needs to have limited text, as limited as possible, so that you don't start to skim over and ignore important information. If you stick around until the end, I'll be giving you some more details about a webinar that we'll be having, and we'll have tons more resources and stuff at that webinar. But yeah, your tools and your systems need to suit what you are actually doing. Like, they need to suit your brain. They need to suit what you need, and they don't need to suit anyone else. They only need to suit you and your household or your team or your family or your employees or whatever. Clear communication, right? Again, we're talking about these key strategies on how in the hell to start delegating with ADHD. You need to communicate clearly. You need to break things down into small tasks and actionable steps. You need to provide deadlines and expectations. If you don't want to do this, delegate that task. Hey, these are all the different things I need done. Or, I don't know what I need done. Can you figure out what I need done? Is a legitimate request from the right person. And again, that brings me to the last and really most key thing is finding the right person. The top indicators of success with ADHD are having a supportive partner and a supportive work environment. Usually a supportive work environment, honestly, is somewhere where you work for yourself or in collaboration with a tight-knit team. It's usually not a traditional hierarchy where you have a boss and you have to do what someone else says. Usually. Having that support system of people around you who understand you and who accept you without judgment and who are there to help you is absolutely key. And for all my business people that are out there listening, having a virtual assistant or a team of virtual assistants or whatever your employee structure is that understand you as an ADHD business owner is absolutely critical. Because then they can set up the systems that you need based on their expertise working with tens of other neurodivergent people. They borrow tactics from other people that work to make your systems and processes more streamlined. So on my team, for example, the system is completely and totally set up to reflect what I need. I have what I call translators, and these people are in place in every department to basically translate my ADHD blah, 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 blah into English or, more often than not, Tagalog or Filipino for the rest of the team. So what that means is I have a big idea, or I have several big ideas, or I have 10,000 tiny ideas. And there is somebody in the correct department who listens to me say, blah, 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 blah. Then they pull out from what I said in real time, y'all. They pull out from what I said the main points. How do they do that? One, by paying close attention. And two, by having AI tools transcribing the entire meeting and pulling out the key information for them as it's happening in real time. Because even if a human being can't keep up with my ADHD brain, you know what can? AI. So there are people who then take my main ideas, break them down into those actionable steps, and delegate them to the rest of the team members who need to do something to accomplish said tasks. What that means is that I have actually put people in place to translate from Avigayl into English. If you can't do that, there's always ways to put systems and processes in place that can take what you need and either walk you through step by step or capture the main information from you, because the main information is all we need, and then break it down into its steps to then be delegated to other people. Because can we be real? That's the most exhausting part. The most exhausting part is once I figure out what I need to do, figure out how to break it down into all those tiny micro steps for people to actually do it properly. Because how am I supposed to explain to a neurotypical person who thinks take a shower is one step that it's actually 47 steps that need to be done in a very exact order? And if I don't tell you every single one of those steps in that exact order, then it's not going to happen the way that I want it to. But I cannot, for the life of me, take any more time to explain 47 steps to somebody who stopped listening to me after step 12. And that was a lot. So if that resonated with you, hit me with a hey, because then I'll feel seen and I'll appreciate you. So let's just bring it back. Let's bring it back. Let's talk about the main ideas. What is important here? First and foremost, delegating does not mean that you are failing. It means that you are fucking winning. It means that you are caring for yourself. It means that you are a leader. It means that you have the capacity to transmit your ideas and thoughts to other people. That's incredible. That's a huge win. And beyond that, don't forget to celebrate your small wins. Acknowledge your progress, even if it's imperfect. Done is better than perfect because perfect doesn't exist. No, doesn't get done. Done is better than perfect because perfect never gets done. Shout out to the done is better than perfect free hive. Progress is where it's at. Celebrate it. Love it. You are better than you were yesterday. Embrace the spirit of Kaizen, of improving 1% every single day. And if today was not a 1% improvement day, and you were accepting of yourself of that fact, then hey, you improved 1% in your ability to accept yourself today. So it was still a 1% improvement day. That's awesome. And remember, building a support system of people who get it is absolutely essential for ADHD success. If you don't know where to find people like that, find us. We are on the internet. Find us at AvyHD. You can reach out to us in the podcast community. You can send us emails. We love to hear from you. Look out in the future for our Reddit community. You can drop us comments on YouTube, on anywhere that podcasts are available. Most importantly, you can find our Facebook group, Trust Yourself, Trust the Process, where we talk about all kinds of things, ADHD related and not, but a lot of celebration of process and progress. So, homework, sorry, but if you made it this far, you know you need to get some homework. What is one task that you can delegate this week? Think about it. Reflect on it. What is one thing you can delegate this week? And please tell us how it went. DM me or tag AvyHD on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. You can find us everywhere. Let me know how it went. Try and delegate just one thing this week. And like I said, if you want to join us for more strategies and tips on delegation, developing effective leadership, empowering growth, and team integration over networks, delegation, we are having a webinar on Facebook Live December 20th. Please join us. Again, you can find us on Facebook, on all of the social medias at AvyHD, AvyHD. We love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. Next week, we are talking about relationships and how ADHD impacts communication with our loved ones. I teased it a little bit this episode, but my life is a treasure trove of that kind of information. And if you love listening to us, please subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media for updates. And I'll leave you with just one final thing. Delegation is the bridge between overwhelm and empowerment. Take the first step. I promise you will thank yourself later. I hope to see you on our webinar on December 20th. And I'll see you before then, hopefully. Bye.